What if Elvis Presley never saw Chuck Berry as a rival, but as his rock and roll hero? While the media painted a fierce battle for the King title, insiders tell a different story. Chuck himself once said Elvis was the greatest who ever was, is, or ever will be, a shocking admission from the man many believe invented rock and roll. Fans still argue online, was Elvis the king or just the messenger for Chuck's sound? The truth is, legends recognize legends. Respect is louder than rivalry. Lesson of the day: give credit where it's due, it echoes forever. Imagine this. It's the early 1970s in Las Vegas. The neon lights flicker, the casinos roar, and inside a smoky lounge, Chuck Berry plugs in his guitar. But among the crowd, a surprising guest slips quietly into a front row seat. Elvis Presley himself. No entourage, no fanfare, just the King, paying cash to watch his hero play. Fans on old music forums swear by this story, claiming Berry stopped mid-song when he saw Elvis. With a grin, he supposedly called out, "Hello, Elvis, long time ago." The crowd erupted, not realizing they were witnessing two rock titans in the same tiny room, sharing a moment no press cameras caught. Whether every detail is true or part of rock folklore, it's become a cherished fan theory. Elvis wasn't just a performer, he was a student of Chuck's craft. That night speaks volumes. Elvis didn't just borrow Berry's sound, as critics often claim, he paid to study it. This flips the rivalry on its head. The supposed king versus kingmaker feud might have been more like a secret mentorship, a passing of the torch no one talked about publicly. The lesson? Real greatness doesn't fear watching someone else shine. Sometimes even the biggest stars sit in the audience to remember where the music truly comes from. Picture a packed club, the guitar licks of Johnny B. Goode slicing through the air. Chuck Berry is mid-duck walk, the crowd losing their minds, and then, suddenly, the music halts. Chuck freezes, stares into the audience, and breaks into a wide grin. Elvis Presley has just walked in. Multiple fan accounts online claim this really happened, not once, but several times throughout the 60s and 70s. Berry allegedly had a rule. If Elvis walks in, you stop and say hello. That kind of respect cuts through all the gossip about rivalry. These two weren't trading blows for the throne, they were trading nods of admiration. But fans have twisted this tale into wild theories. Some argue Chuck stopped the music because he was irritated. Here comes the man who took my crown. Others think it was pure awe. Elvis was the only performer Chuck would pause his show for. The truth probably lies somewhere in between, and that tension fuels the myth to this day. This small, unverified moment captures everything about their relationship: admiration, rivalry, blurred lines of influence. The takeaway? True legends recognize each other in the room, even if they stop the music to do it. That's not competition, it's rock and roll respect. Tom Jones once told a story that stunned even lifelong Elvis fans. During a backstage conversation in the late 60s, someone casually called Elvis the king of rock and roll. Elvis reportedly shook his head and said, "No, Chuck Berry is the real king." That one comment has fueled endless debates online. Was Elvis being humble? Or was he quietly acknowledging that Chuck Berry built the very foundation he stood on? Music historians often point out that Elvis's first Sun Records hits drew directly from the rhythm and blues patterns Chuck pioneered. Yet, this private admission suggests Elvis never believed he owned the crown at all. On fan forums, people speculate Elvis felt conflicted. He loved Chuck's music, but was aware he became the face of a genre largely created by black artists. Some even say this guilt fueled his obsession with perfecting his stage presence, as if he had to earn what Chuck gave the world first. It's a powerful truth. The greatest legend might never have wanted the throne in the first place. There's a persistent rumor that Elvis and Chuck Berry once planned to record together, but it never happened. The story, passed around fan forums and whispered in music circles, claims that a Memphis producer pitched a track where Elvis and Chuck would trade verses, blending rockabilly swagger with Berry's raw guitar magic. Allegedly, both men were interested, but record label politics and egos got in the way. Some say the project was scrapped because executives feared it would blur the king of rock narrative they were selling. Others claim Chuck refused, unless it was a true 50-50 partnership, not just Elvis featuring Chuck. Whether true or myth, fans imagine that missing song as the ultimate rock and roll explosion, a track that could have rewritten music history overnight. It's a haunting what if, two kings, one stage, one song, lost forever. While Elvis dominated TV, Chuck Berry owned the stage, and once he reportedly left Elvis speechless. A story passed through fans and even some musicians claims that during a private jam session in St. Louis, Elvis tried to keep up with Chuck's wild guitar riffs and couldn't. Chuck's fingers flew, lightning fast, and the King simply watched, grinning and clapping along. Some witnesses said Elvis laughed and admitted, "Man, I can't play like that." Fans call this the night Elvis gave up the guitar crown, a reminder that while Presley had charisma and a voice like velvet, Chuck's raw musicianship was untouchable. This unrecorded moment shows why their rivalry was never straightforward. It wasn't just about fame. It was about different kinds of greatness colliding in one room. One of the most debated fan theories says Elvis's iconic hip-shaking dance moves weren't entirely his invention. Chuck Berry was known for his duck walk and wild stage antics years before Elvis hit national TV. According to longtime concertgoers, Elvis once attended a Chuck Berry show in '55 and was mesmerized by Chuck's on-stage energy. Weeks later, Elvis's early performances featured sudden hip thrusts and leg shuffles eerily similar to Berry's style. Fan forums claim that Chuck himself joked about this years later, saying, "Elvis moved like me, but prettier." Music historians point out that Elvis perfected what Berry started, turning raw blues movements into mainstream spectacle. It's a hot topic to this day. Was Elvis the innovator or the ultimate rock and roll thief? Maybe both truths lived on the same stage. In the mid-'60s, at a high-profile music event, Elvis reportedly approached Chuck Berry backstage to congratulate him on a killer performance. Chuck's response? A polite nod, and then he walked away. Witnesses say Elvis looked stunned, unsure whether it was shade or shyness. Over the years, this story turned into legend on fan forums. Some say Chuck never fully forgave Elvis for being crowned the King when Chuck had laid the foundation. Others believe Chuck resented the racial dynamics of rock and roll fame, where Elvis got the spotlight for a sound that black pioneers had built. Whatever the truth, this rumored cold shoulder became symbolic of their complicated relationship, a silent reminder that respect in rock and roll wasn't always mutual, even between two legends who admired each other's genius from afar. According to a story passed around in music circles, after Elvis's legendary 1968 comeback special aired, he made a late-night phone call to Chuck Berry. A studio tech allegedly overheard Elvis saying, "Chuck, I just wanted you to know, I wouldn't be here without you." Fans speculate the call was an unrecorded olive branch, a private moment of respect from one king to another. Some say Chuck's reply was humble, just a chuckle and, "Well, you kept it alive, man." Others insist Chuck sounded bitter, hinting at the fame he never truly received. No one knows if this call really happened, but the rumor has fueled fan theories for decades. If true, it paints a stunning picture. Behind the rivalry, two legends quietly admitted they needed each other. It's a little-known story, but during a 1957 concert in Detroit, a section of the crowd reportedly chanted, "Play Chuck," between Elvis's songs. Chuck Berry was exploding on the charts, and some fans wanted Elvis to cover his latest hits. Witnesses say Elvis smiled, said, "I'll leave that to the master," and moved on with his set list. This small moment, often buried in fan recollections online, shows just how intertwined their careers were, even in competition. Elvis had legions of fans, but Chuck's influence was so strong that audiences craved his sound everywhere. It's a reminder that rock and roll's throne was never uncontested. The people knew it, Elvis knew it, and Chuck knew it better than anyone. In a 1972 radio interview, Chuck Berry was asked how he felt about Elvis being called the King of Rock and Roll. With a sly grin, Chuck reportedly said, "King? If he's the king, I must be the landlord. He's still paying me rent." The audience laughed, but fans debate to this day whether Chuck was joking or revealing a deeper resentment. Online forums have dissected that line for years, some calling it playful banter, others a thinly veiled jab at Elvis's fame for borrowing from black pioneers like Berry. Many believe Chuck truly felt Elvis built his empire on foundations Chuck laid first. Whether a joke or a sting, that one sentence became part of rock folklore. Elvis wore the crown, but Chuck owned the castle. Here's one that stings for Elvis fans. Rumor has it Elvis once offered to do a spontaneous studio jam session with Chuck Berry in the mid-60s, hoping to create a blues rock anthem together. But Chuck, burned by years of feeling overshadowed, allegedly declined. Insiders claim Chuck told mutual friends, "Why make him richer off my sound?" Whether true or exaggerated, this tale has fueled endless what-if threads online. Imagine it, Elvis's swaggering vocals colliding with Chuck's screaming guitar licks, a rock and roll supernova that never happened. Some music historians think Chuck feared being labeled a side act to Elvis, cementing their rivalry further. Others say he simply didn't trust the business deals around it. Whatever the reason, rock lost a once-in-a-lifetime duet to pride and politics. This one's pure fan theory gold. In niche rock forums, a rumor circulates that Elvis's 1960 hit Stuck on You was inspired by an unreleased Chuck Berry riff recorded months earlier. The story goes that a Sun Records intern heard Chuck's demo during a studio visit, hummed it to Elvis's team, and the rest is history. There's no hard proof, but fans dissect every note, pointing out a Berry-style lick that seems out of place for Elvis's usual sound. Some claim Chuck himself once joked backstage, "Sounds familiar, don't it?" while glaring at Elvis. Whether coincidence or quiet theft, this theory sparks heated debates to this day. It feeds the idea that Elvis's biggest secret weapon was Chuck's sound, even when Chuck didn't give it to him. Despite all the tension, Elvis reportedly acknowledged Chuck Berry's primacy in private conversations. In a 1969 backstage chat overheard by a journalist, Elvis allegedly said, "Chuck was doing this long before me. I just got the spotlight." That line never made it to print officially. Some say Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, squashed it to protect his image as the true king. But decades later, the story resurfaced through fan accounts, giving a rare glimpse of humility from Presley. It's a powerful moment that redefines their rivalry. Beneath all the media hype, Elvis knew who paved the road he walked on. This small, almost lost confession adds a bittersweet layer to their complicated relationship, a king quietly bowing to the man who built his throne. Rock and roll lore tells of a wild night in Vegas, 1970, when Chuck Berry supposedly showed up uninvited to an Elvis after-party. The King had just finished one of his legendary comeback shows, the room buzzing with A-list guests. Then Chuck walks in, guitar slung over his shoulder, and, according to witnesses, commandeers the house band and launches into Johnny B. Good. The crowd lost its mind. Elvis reportedly laughed, clapped along, and even yelled, "Show 'em how it's done, Chuck!" But some guests swore they saw a flicker of frustration in Elvis's eyes as Berry stole every ounce of attention that night. Whether a playful showdown or a power move, the story cements Chuck as the only man who could walk into Elvis's kingdom and snatch the crown for a song. In the late 80s, collectors began whispering about a mysterious bootleg tape. Elvis, in a rare private jam session, allegedly belting out Chuck Berry's Maybelline. The recording, if real, would be dynamite. It would show Elvis not just influenced by Chuck, but flat out worshiping his sound behind closed doors. One supposed insider claimed to have heard the tape, describing Elvis mimicking Chuck's signature guitar stabs and shouting, "Now that's real rock and roll." The tape has never surfaced, leading many to call it a hoax, but die-hard fans still chase it like buried treasure. If it exists, it flips the rivalry narrative completely. Elvis wasn't just competing with Chuck, he was chasing him, studying him, maybe even idolizing him in secret. The King had a hero, and his name was Chuck Berry. Hollywood gossip has long whispered about a gentleman's agreement in the late 50s between Elvis's management and major film studios. Keep Chuck Berry out of leading rock and roll movie roles. The theory claims Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's notorious manager, didn't want Chuck stealing the limelight on screen after his massive chart success. Some alleged memos even hinted that producers were interested in Chuck for roles later given to Elvis, but Parker politely discouraged it. Fans on old rock forums speculate this wasn't just racism in the industry, it was calculated protection of Elvis's golden boy image. If true, this would mean the rivalry wasn't just on stage or in the charts, it was behind the cameras too. Chuck may have been iced out of Hollywood not by chance, but by Elvis's camp pulling strings. Despite decades of influence and competition, Chuck and Elvis reportedly never shared a real private sit-down. Fans have built entire fantasies around the idea of a secret meeting planned in the late 70s that never happened. Some say it was supposed to take place in Memphis. Others swear it was Las Vegas. The rumored reason? Elvis wanted to clear the air and possibly even record a track with Chuck, but scheduling conflicts or perhaps lingering tension kept it from happening. Elvis died in 1977 before they could reconcile. To this day, fans imagine what that meeting would have been like. Two kings of rock in one room, trading riffs, maybe laughing about all the drama. Instead, the rivalry was left unfinished, a story without its last chapter. When you piece it all together, the Elvis-Chuck rivalry wasn't just about who was king of rock and roll. It was a tangled web of admiration, jealousy, industry politics, and missed chances. Elvis borrowed, Chuck innovated, the media stirred the pot, and fans still argue to this day about who truly ruled rock's throne. Maybe the biggest twist is this. Beneath all the hype, both men were just chasing the same dream, making music that would last forever. And they did. Without Chuck's swagger, riffs, and storytelling, Elvis's sound wouldn't have been the same. Without Elvis's image blasting rock into the mainstream, Chuck's music might not have reached the masses. The rivalry never got its final handshake, but it gave birth to the music that built a generation. And maybe that's the real shocking truth.